So, speaking of
Go right
unprofessional,
ahead.
speaking of business, the current never open weight champion Carl Anderson has been caught in the middle of a dispute with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I don't even want to say it's unprofessional. I don't know all the details. Let me stop that. The Japan-based wrestling conglomerate released a statement saying that it has failed to reach an agreement with Carl Anderson on on an agreement that would allow him to appear in Osaka to defend his championship against Hikuleo on November 5th in Osaka, which is the same day as WWE's premium live event Crown Jewel. So I think my question to you is like, how should New Japan Pro Wrestling respond in light of the absence and failed negotiations with Carl Anderson?
I'm sorry. Do we have any other further details in regards of this dispute so I could have a full understanding what happened?
So essentially, um, all right, going back to the beginning, I guess the beginning. Before the OC appeared on Monday Night Raw, Luke Gallows or Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson were signed to New Japan Pro Wrestling. While being signed to New Japan Pro Wrestling, it was said that Carl Anderson had a match against Hikuleu for the never open weight championship because Carl Anderson, before he was with WWE, became the never open weight championship. He then goes to WWE. When they actually make the appearance in Brooklyn, they did not have a long term deal in place yet. It was just an appearance. They then signed contracts. After they had signed contracts, they kept advertising this match between Carl Anderson and Hikuleu. And then next thing you know, we get this bomb saying that the OC is facing Judgment Day at Crown Jewel on November 5th. The event in Osaka and the event in Saudi Arabia are on the same day. After that, there was a video that was released with Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows essentially saying, "Hey man, listen, uh, I'm not showing up on November 5th." This is Carl Anderson essentially saying it, and it was like Gallows was like, "Listen, if you got any business with Carl Anderson, you got to go through me." And But yeah, essentially their whole thing was, "We're not showing up. And if you want to negotiate, then you got to go through Gallows to get through Anderson." They tried reaching out to Carl Anderson multiple times. They failed to get a hold of him and negotiate some form of agreement that would allow him to work both events on the same day. However, in my opinion, I don't think Carl wants to work both events on the same day. But yeah, that's kind of what's been happening. So now, what do you think that and Carl Anderson said that he's not going to vacate the title. And that's what the statement that New Japan released in response to Carl Anderson said that if he was not going to show up, that Carl Anderson had to relinquish the never open weight title and bring it back to New Japan Pro Wrestling immediately. So yeah, with all that, how do you think
No, thank
that
you for that preface 'cause I needed that.
no problem.
I definitely
Nope.
needed that.
So now like with all that given, how do you think that New Japan should respond?
Yeah, if they want to go about this in like the least the least climatic way, I would definitely like force him to vacate the title because that was a pretty shitty move. If that's in fact what did happen, I definitely would just snatch that shit from underneath his waist because why would you do that? You know, that's something that should have been professionally communicated that you can't do this or you just did not want to do this. It's kind of a shame because I feel like that would have been a pretty good bridge for WWE and New Japan. You know, I think a lot of fans have been looking forward to that so we can see more faces being bought in because we know of course that Triple H loves um Japanese wrestling. He definitely appreciates those wrestlers over there and I feel as though like again like this could have been a really good like business move that he kind of just sabotaged on his own. We don't know the exact reason, and it's coming off from the way you worded it that he just didn't want to do it, or he
Hmm.
didn't want to be in two places at once, or he just preferred to stay where he's at. But it's just like, why would you want to blow an opportunity like that? You know, to me,
Hmm.
I'm very much like dumbfounded. So if I were them, yeah, I would definitely vacate it. Why you got to operate on their time like you need them? Like
Right.
they're fine without you. This is like if anything, it would have been like a mutual business favor.
Right.
So I don't understand why he would want to, especially knowing that he has history with the company. It should have made it that much easier to communicate that there was going to be a change in plans and that you just wanted to withdraw from this, or you didn't want to um, partake in the event. So you're saying that they are set up now with Judgment Day. Like
Mhm.
that's his decision he just wanted to make.
I mean,
Yeah.
it looks like it. It looks like he's I mean, if you're telling cats like, "Oh, I'm not gonna be there," I think he's going to go to Saudi Arabia and be in that match between the Judgment Day and the OC. But to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, I do believe it. This is a shame because this could have been a wonderful bridge for WWE and New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think that this was
Hmm.
something that they could reach an agreement over and possibly have New Japan and WWE work together because like Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson as currently advertised are part of the Bullet Club. You know what I mean? And I think that that's something that WWE has wanted access to from an intellectual property standpoint for years. They've wanted to claim Bullet Club, feature Bullet Club on their programming in a legitimate way for years. And I think that this would have been a great bridge to kind of allow that to happen. Um but yeah, I think that New Japan should find a way. I mean, if Carl Anderson is not going to return the belt, and this is going to be a very very controversial take. If Carl Anderson is not going to vacate the title, he's not going to give the belt, which means he's not going to be in Osaka. He's not going to defend the belt. I think that they should just find a way to do business. Like it sounds crazy, and I'm not denying the fact that Carl Anderson is moving funny, but I think it's like you don't have the belt. Carl Anderson has the belt, which means that he like in the minds of the typical wrestling fan, Carl Anderson is the champion. And as long as you try to create another version of that championship and like have two people fight for the vacated version of it, people aren't going to deem it as legitimate. And it's always going to be the elephant in the room until Carl Anderson makes an appearance and says, "Oh, we need to, settle this, and I'm the real champion." And da 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 da
But
da.
were they able to, like fix that in Impact when Tessa fucking ran off with the belt in Mexico
Very,
and
very
they need
true.
another
But
belt
it was it
since she.
was one of those things where like Tessa already had number one, Tessa already had a bad reputation. Number two, they had other people, other legitimate stars who could kind of take the mantle as being the world champion. Like Tessa was the world champion, but in my opinion, the hottest talent in that company at the time was Sammy Callahan. So they had people who can take the rightful mantle and it wouldn't question the legitimacy of the championship. Carl Anderson, like him or not, is one of the founding members of Bullet Club. He's one of the most decorated tag team champions in the world. That guy's a legitimate star and a legitimate talent for New Japan Pro Wrestling. So it's like putting the belt on him and having a guy like Hikuleu come up against him, and if Hikuleu were to beat him, would put him over as a legit talent and put him over as a legit star in that company. But if Carl Anderson doesn't show up, the elephant that's always going to be in the room is okay, you have this new never open weight title, but like you didn't beat Carl Anderson. You know what I mean? And that's just going to be something that kind of looms over him and looms over the company. And it's just like, why, like, just address the elephant in the room and do business with WWE and work out some form of agreement that would allow Carl Anderson to defend at a later time or a later date, or even just be in a position where Hikuleu can come to Raw. That would be dope. I think that that would be dope if they could find a way to get a Bullet Club member over on Raw. I think that they have the opportunity to do something special with this, but that's all that I'm saying is I think that New Japan should find a way to do business with WWE in order to either retain the never openweight championship or find a way in which the never openweight title can be featured on WWE programming.
You think they would try again after essentially being played in their faces, though, by
I
someone that
think
they are familiar with? It's not like
I I
really.
think they would. I think they would. And the reason why I say I think they would is because I think that number one, like I said in the other episode, I think that they're more willing to do business with WWE than AEW. One, two, a lot of their biggest stars are either with AEW or WWE, and 3, they're trying to grow a US presence still. And I feel like if you have a talent that has my title, okay, that's cool, but you owe me one. And it's a lot easier to work out some form of deal in which I, as New Japan, benefit rather than just saying "f this," da 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 da. Da, I'm not gonna do it, and then you get nothing in return, right? Like, I just think that there's more for New Japan if they find a way to do business than if they were to just kind of like disregard Carl Anderson. Like, don't let your pride get in the way of a business move that can up your company. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for their company to be upped in value and upped in prestige and exposure, especially if they're trying to gain a US audience. That's all I got to say about that, though. Did you have anything else to say?
No, when you put it that way, that actually makes a lot more sense. Because at first I'm just like, well, why the hell would I want to go work with someone that just did me dirty and just,
Right.
blew my bookings? But when you put it that way, there is more to gain if they do try again. Because I don't believe that they're. I'm not saying New Japan's not doing good at the moment. It's just that they're not as interesting as they were in the last couple of years. Like not that many people are talking. There's not as much buzz. Considering, like you just said, their best talent did disperse and upgrade to working in America. So
Hmm.
yeah, no, you made some excellent points with that one.